I'd like to go through a few comments. Howard Osborne says, he recently said Trump is a sure winner. Make up your mind. I think Nixon is on for a shock victory here. Well, literally, my mind changes by the day. Why not? If John Maynard Keynes changes his mind as the facts change, so do I. I follow a very good master there. Also, I don't believe in sort of nailing my colours to some sort of tribal mast. Stephen Creed says the only woman capable of giving a letters a place in political history. I wonder who she's talking about, or I wonder who he's talking about. Liz Truss is extraordinary in the garrulity and the presence. I every time I switch on the television, there she is, gurning at the camera. Damien Campbell talks about a repugnant orange slug. Again, I wonder who he's talking about. Bionic Ruster says, who cares what Cleverly thinks? Hasn't he got rape jokes to crack? Whatever you may think of Jenrick or Badenoch, Liberals will hardly be voting Tory whatever, and Tories certainly won't be going anywhere if Cleverly won. No, you're quite right. Cleverly would not take the Conservative Party back into the realm of leadership, though a poll today suggests that they are ahead of the current Labour Party. And that's simply by default. They've done nothing. They have been so introspective, navel-gazing for 3 months of a leadership election when they should have been holding the present government to account. It's a dereliction of duty, but you know they did plenty of that while they were in power. John Whiffin says, two pretend right-wing MPs, thank God Cleverly has thrown the towel in. There are too many Liberals in the Tory party anyway. I don't know quite what you mean there. People talk to me about being tribal. I don't understand what you're trying to get at there. Too many Liberals in the Tory party. Well, it would be wonderful if some of the Liberal leaning Conservative MPs join the Lib Dems, and those who want to join Reform did that. At least that way the Lib Dems would end up as the opposition. Oh yes, this one here. John Whiffin says, easy does it. It's best not to compare Starmer to anyone. Well, certainly one wouldn't want to compare Starmer to Boris Johnson, a man who seems to produce small children at the drop of a hat, or at least at a slightly stained number 10 sofa. I think simply sitting on the sofa anywhere near Boris Johnson would produce a sprog, wouldn't it? Yes, I think it would be inappropriate to compare Sir Keir Starmer to anyone else. With reference to Trump suing CBS, Bob Somiadis quite rightly says nearly all of his lawsuits are dismissed, treated as a joke. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that he hasn't filed a lawsuit. Stephen Melvin says, I'm voting for the candidate that's not endorsed by Putin. Trump 2024. I'm not so sure about that. I think Putin would be very pleased if Mr. Trump were to be elected, and I certainly don't think Putin is encouraging the election of Kamala Harris. Stephen Holmes says, nothing about the attempted destruction of family farms. The cynical introduction of inheritance tax on family farms is an attempt to destroy family farming completely in the UK. A party that hates farming in rural communities, with a minister whose constituency is in Croydon. Please address this serious issue. In fact, I've already done so, and I'm not sure who you mean by the minister who is in Croydon. I've certainly addressed the issue about the Scottish committee, and I've addressed the issue about family farms. I have a background in farming anyway, and I deplore the destruction of small farms. Small farms were the lifeblood of our country, and a combination of EU nonsense, the restrictions on East European holiday labour have destroyed, for example, the bulb trade and a lot of the a lot of the vegetable trade because of the difficulty of harvesting, and it wasn't then helped by some of the legislation from the last Conservative government, and it certainly isn't helped by the present Labour government. It's a shame that we don't have more farmers in the House of Commons. It's a shame that we don't have a principle that somebody who goes into the House of Commons should have had a life first. What we actually need is a sort of Sulla to come in and make it very clear that a seat in the House of Commons cannot be acquired until after a certain age. Though you would notice, of course, if you look at the history of the last years of the Roman Republic, so almost immediately after Sulla had said that there's an age limit for each magistracy, Pompey is suddenly elected consul, I think together with Crassus, and Pompey had never even been a senator by that stage. Extraordinary. By the end of that year, Crassus and Pompey hated each other. They hated each other enough so that in their last public meeting, when they were both sitting on their chairs in the Forum, I think, some wag stood up and said, "Can I tell you my dream?" And I think it was Crassus probably who said, "Yes, please do." And he said, "I dream that the consuls will not finish their year of office without becoming friends." And Crassus moved over to Pompey and embraced him and resolved the squabble that had been going on for months. It's an encouraging story, isn't it? I wish there were more people who would walk across the chamber in the House of Commons and hug their opponent.